Professor Theoceratops, and may I introduce you to Digging Deeper Bite-Sized. Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of Digging Deeper Bite-Sized. My name is Professor Theoceratops, and it is with much merriment that I greet you today. Now, again this week, I thought I would start off with a question. Now, we've got a question from Holly at 10:30. The 10:30 girls have lots of questions, which is fantastic. But Holly's question is a tricky one. It goes like this. If a baby dies, does it go to heaven? Now, thank you for your question, Holly. This is a rather sad topic. But that doesn't mean we don't talk about it, because it is important. Now, it's worth noting that there are two things in this world. Things that God tells us, and things that God does not tell us. Now, God does not actually tell us what happens to every single baby. He doesn't. That's not one of the things that he tells us. But something that God does tell us is that he is good. He is just. That means he makes the right decision every time. He also tells us that he cares about every single person, including babies that have not even been born yet. And so, we can trust God to make the right decision in this situation. However, it is worth noting that in the Bible, people who trust in God could actually be confident that God would save their baby. And so, it is my personal belief that if a baby of people who trust in Jesus was to sadly die, that one day we would get to meet that baby in heaven. And what a day that will be. Now, Holly, I hope that's helpful. And don't forget that you, or any of you other young pups out there, can ask your EV Kids leaders at any time. Now, please stay tuned, because we're going to have the rest of the episode in just a moment. Welcome to the rest of the episode. Now, the last 2 weeks, we've been looking at God's godness. What makes him God? Week 1, we saw that God can exist all by himself and never needed to be made. Week 2, we saw that God has no limits. He is infinite. And finally today, we are going to see the third godness quality, and that is known as his unchangeableness. Now that means he doesn't change. He will always be powerful, always know everything, and he will always be good. People, they change their minds. God doesn't. People get better or worse. God is always perfect, and he always will be. People, they get old and stinky. God never gets old, even though he's older than everything. Now please, have a look at this verse in your Bible. But don't forget to pause the video. God is the same. He's the same God yesterday, today, and tomorrow. You see, because God doesn't change, we can trust him to be the same. We won't wake up tomorrow to find that God has decided he would rather that the sun was pink. And thank goodness too, because as an old geezer, I think that would just knock my socks off. But more important than the sun's colour, we won't wake up tomorrow to find that he doesn't love us anymore. We won't wake up tomorrow to find that Jesus is no longer the only way back to the Father. He will always love us, And Jesus will always be the only way back to God. Because God doesn't change, it means that we can always trust him in what he says. Everything in the Bible, it is true. It always will be true because it's God who said it. And God doesn't change. That is something that sets him apart as God. See, God never was made. He has no limits, and he doesn't change. He is those things because he is God. He is better than you. He is better than me. He is worth getting to know. So please, always work harder to dig deeper into the Bible, even if it is just in bite-sized pieces. I am Professor Theoceratops, and God doesn't change. See you next week. Goodbye.